We're going to be starting in just a minute. All right, hello everyone. We're really excited that you've joined us for this session of the Upfluence Live Summit. Once again, this is Connect, Collab, Create, and for this session, we're going to be talking about how you plan a successful influencer marketing campaign, and what are the steps that you need to take to make sure that you drive that success home. Once again, my name is Paul Kahn. I'm the SVP of Sales here, and I'm extremely happy to have Josh Weidling with us, who's the Influencer and Social Media Marketing Manager at Tiege Hanley. Josh, thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem.
No problem. Josh is ready to go. And Adam Shapiro, who's our head of product marketing and strategic partnerships at Upfluence. Adam, how are you doing today?
Yeah, doing well. We've got a great webinar today. I'm excited to be part of it.
All right. So what are we going to be talking about today? Today, we are talking about all of the steps to get your influencer marketing campaign off the ground in a really smart way. And we're talking about this partially from a data perspective, but also from a creative perspective. So we're going to talk about how you go about setting the stage and planning out your influencer marketing goals, ideas. What are the steps to find the right influencers? When it comes time to do the outreach, what are your best practices? And, if you need contracts and things like that, what do you need to be thinking about? And then how do you really go about executing this campaign in the best possible way? So to get started, a brief little introduction to who we are here at Upfluence. We develop smarter technology to help decode influencer marketing. And as we've noted, we have offices all over the world, users all over the world, and we work with multiple different industries. I want to ask Josh to introduce Tiege Hanley for us a little bit. So Josh, can you tell us a little bit about Tiege Hanley?
Yeah, so we have been a company for, I believe we just had our 5-year anniversary this summer. And yeah, I've been with the company for 4.5 years, came in about 6 to 8 months after we launched. And yeah, so we make it easy for guys to start and maintain a skincare routine. That's our whole goal. That's our shtick, is we make it really, really easy. We make it easy to choose, make it easy to start and to stick to it. And yeah, so also, company was co-founded by Alpha M. He's the guy in the middle there on the screen. And he is a big influencer on YouTube. He's got just shy of 7 million subscribers. And so, influencer marketing is in the DNA of Tiege Hanley. It was a part of the initial go live strategy from the get-go when the company launched 5 years ago. So.
Yeah, and we're going to show a little bit about what Tiege Hanley does to get this content out. But if you ever want to have a blast, go look at some of the YouTube content that's being created. Alpha M's YouTube content is amazing for especially what he does for Tiege Hanley, and then of course what the other influencers are doing. Okay, and so the first step, right, is planning. I know everybody wants to just be like, let me go talk to the influencer. But if you go without having your plan of attack, you're going to just have a lot of wash, right? You're going to be reaching out to people. So we want to talk about what you need to do to really have that successful influencer marketing campaign. I know this sounds crazy, but my brother taught me how to do tech support back in the day. Back when there were only desktops. So there you go. You have a sense of how old I am. But the first thing that you would do if the screen was black is you'd ask the person, hey, is it plugged in? And people would get offended, and then you'd realize that it had gotten unplugged. So we're going to talk about the importance of plugging in the computer here. What are your actual goals? What are the actual KPIs that you're hoping to achieve with your influencer marketing campaign? If you don't know what those are, you're just going to be shooting in the dark. Who's the audience? Who are the people who, if they got the message, will actually go and purchase what you're trying to do? What's the budget you're looking to spend? And I know, we influencers are people. They work off of value, right? They have lots of people competing for their time, their energy. They want to understand what's in it for them. And that sounds selfish. It's not at all. Like, they have lots of people, they're in demand, and they want to understand, if I work with you, how does that help me grow my brand? How does that help me make money? How does that help me do all sorts of things? So you want to be able to answer those questions before you even get into the next pieces. Okay. So Adam, we like to talk about KPIs, and we like to talk about campaign goals. There are different ways that you want to have people be thinking about your influencer campaign, whether it's awareness, engagement, all these other kinds of things. Can you talk a little bit about why someone would be focused in one direction or another?
Yeah, sure. So there are a couple of different ways, as you can see here, to define what success means for your brand when they're working with influencers. So, of course, one of the goals, especially in the e-commerce space, could simply be sales, what we call conversion. But you also might be in a place where instead of just trying to sell more product, you're really just trying to get brand awareness out there. You're trying to get people to know who you are, where you fit into the marketplace, and that could just be something that is the overall goal of working with influencers. And if that's the case, you might choose different influencers based on just wanting to get the maximum audience or impressions or views, as you can see there. In terms of engagement, if you want to have people interacting with the content, then that's going to be a measure of success, in one of those goals, where engagement rate, shares, comments, things like that, those are going to be kind of what you want to focus on. In the case of loyalty, the last one there, a lot of times the ways that you might work with influencers are sending them a affiliate or referral link for them to share with their audiences. And yes, that drives sales, but it also builds loyalty among the audience, among the influencers. You can build longer lasting relationships with them, which we'll talk about. So long story short, it really just kind of take a look at the different KPIs that are here. Try to understand where your customers are, how they interact with social media, and that'll help you decide which are going to be your first, most important KPIs for your various campaigns.
And Josh, I know, Tiege Hanley, obviously you are all driving a lot of sales through your influencer world, but has that goal, have those KPIs changed since the launch of the company, or has it, how does Tiege Hanley define the KPIs for success when they're working with influencers?
Yeah, in general, it's conversion based, so sales. And so, but the split down the middle, if you take this screen, you split it in half. One side is it's impression based, it's reach, and the other side is direct response. And so you've got awareness and direct response. And so we're definitely on the direct response side. We are looking for people to visit our website, buy products. If they don't buy directly from the influencer, buy somewhere else in our marketing mix, whether it's on a Facebook ad, an email, Google search, whatever it may be. And so, yeah, that's still our goal. But, the awareness stuff can help inform what potential the influencer has on the direct response. So their engagement rate means they have a very highly engaged audience. That could mean that they're more apt to buy. And so you could use one side to inform the other.
Yeah. And the other thing to always remember for people who are just getting started, it's hard to drive conversion right at the beginning and until people have a sense of your brand, until the social proof exists and all of that. So that awareness piece is good for launches and things of that nature. But as we've been talking about all day, really getting towards social commerce, really driving conversions and eventually loyalty. That should be how you're thinking about influencer marketing as we're moving forward. And that's my just opinion, I guess.
Yeah, and can I say one more thing?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and a conversion doesn't always mean a sale. For instance, you see downloads on there on the conversion column, and a brand like Raid Shadow Legends, they're a huge sponsor on a lot of YouTube content. They're looking for downloads. Now, those downloads may lead to either advertising revenue or in-game expense purchases. And so a sale or a conversion doesn't always mean, an actual, money transaction right out of the gate.
Right.
So,
and one other thing to remember with those conversions is that's where setting up your tracking ahead of time matters tremendously, because otherwise it's all brand awareness. If you don't have tracking, it's all brand awareness, right? And as we spoke about, the CMSs, specifically Shopify, as we heard from them today, are making that process very simple on the on their end, and through our integration, we can help you with that as well. Okay, so when we're talking about target audience, right, it really matters. And Josh, I love having you here for this because Tiege Hanley has a very specific target audience, right? In fact, we were talking about this yesterday, and Selena, who's on the back end. And by the way, thank you, Selena. You've done an amazing job keeping us all on track throughout this entire thing. But she was like, yeah, let me know when you're going to have women's skincare products. And your response made us all laugh. Can you repeat what you said?
Yeah, we're never going to have that. So, we're a men's brand through and through. We want to help men look and feel amazing. It's literally written on the wall behind me. And so there's a lot of female brands out there that are serving that market very well. We think that we're doing a great job to serve the men's market. And so yeah, that goes right into this slide. I mean, knowing who you're targeting, doesn't matter how big that reach is. If it's not the right reach, it can help with awareness, and it might be able to get you, some people through other people, through word of mouth. But that's a tougher thing to track, especially, and knowing where it came from. But yeah, knowing your audience is huge.
Yeah, and in terms of that data piece, as you're starting to think about influencers you want to work with, Adam, I know you're probably so tired of just talking about the word data today, but Josh was saying it can help. Well, sometimes it can, and sometimes it can't, right? Like if we have a bunch of followers, let's say you're a brand that's looking to sell in the US and Canada, and all of the followers live in Russia. There's nothing wrong with having followers that live in Russia, but if the brand doesn't ship to Russia, those followers don't help. And can you talk a little bit about some of the data points that we try to give everyone access to on the platform?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll never get tired of talking about data. It's so important these days. Can't specify it enough in a lot of various different ways. And of course, one of them is just having the ability to understand when you're not only choosing an audience, or once you choose an audience, which influencers are going to get you in front of that audience. And a lot of times, if you just go to someone's Instagram page, you see how many followers they have, and that's really it. You don't have insights into where those followers are located. You might spend money with an influencer, and in fact, all of their customers in Russia. And like for whatever reason, maybe you can't ship there, or obviously it's incredibly expensive to do so. It's just not a good fit. So the more information, the more data points that you can get about building your target audience, understanding your prospects, who they are, where they live, in terms of online and social, how they interact with your brand, what's their buying path, which we've talked about a bunch today, what are the roadblocks there, so that you can make it as easy and efficient as for them to make this purchase. Once you understand that, then you can find the right influencers to get you in front of those people. And of course, you have to have a system to do that, understanding their age, their gender, their location, which social media channels they tend to prefer. These are all important parts of your plan when you're going into developing your influencer strategy.
And then the interest piece, right? If you have somebody, you could have the greatest influencer in the world, but if their interest is around, I don't know, if you're trying to sell them skincare and what they are only talking about is World of Warcraft, as a for instance, I don't know, I'm just throwing out something, might work, might not work, right? So you need to make sure that they have an interest in talking about the the product that you're going to be putting in front of them. Because if they don't, their audience probably won't be interested in them talking about it. They'll be like, wait, I come to you for my gaming stuff, not for skincare or something like that. Although that can work as well. So it sort of is a case by case basis.
Yeah, with that, you just want to make sure that if the interest isn't there, that the influencer has some sort of connection to the product that is natural to them. So with skincare, it could be acne. And so if the person grew up with acne, they probably have dealt with other skincare brands or other skincare products before. And then when they use Tiege and they've had great results, then they can speak to that and just say, I've suffered from X, Y, and Z in the past, and this product helped me overcome that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So you then have to figure out your budget. And this is the work of it all, right? What's your budget? What are you hoping to accomplish? What are you going to use? And how are you going to compensate your influencers? Because you have to in some way, right? You're asking them for their time. So there are different options that we have here that different people use, whether it's free products, giving VIP benefits, some sort of performance-based fee where, if you track the sales and you can say, hey, you helped me drive this or that sale, or some other type of revenue sharing. This is very personal to the brand, right? How much you're budgeting for influencer marketing is going to really help you put together your value proposition, what your goals are, and all of that. But we just want to make sure that you have that you're thinking about this as you go through. And like I said, it's very dependent on your brand, your goals, and your budgeting for the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's worth mentioning also, I think it's actually part of the next slide, but yeah, if you can build that alignment and you find the influencers who are going to have a vested interest in your brand and get excited about the product or the service and the campaign that you're asking them to run, in some cases, you'll actually see a discounted rate versus maybe influencers who you're coming to where it's not a good fit. So I'm sure Josh, can speak to this a bit more. But, again, the more you can align with your product and their campaign needs with the influencer and with the audience that you're looking to get in front of and that influencer's audience, it can actually help on the budgeting side and what you end up spending as well.
Yeah, every influencer has their I'll be PG here, their FU price, and so and they're willing to make concessions for brands that they truly believe in. So, it's important to make that connection with them out of the gate. Understand how your product aligns with what they're doing. So,
yeah, absolutely. So now we want to talk about how you do that. So, Josh, right? Like, how do you make somebody feel like you can align with what they're doing? I mean, that personal connection is what you're starting to talk about, right?
Yeah. So, understanding who they are as a creator, and how what kind of content they've created in the past, how they've talked about other brands in the past, can really inform how you speak with them. And so finding a piece of content that you latch onto in terms of like, hey, I could see my brand sponsoring this. Mention that to them, because that just lets them know, one, you've checked out their channel or their Instagram account or whatever platform you're on. And two, it gives them a frame of reference to start working from. And so, there are ways, even with Upfluence, some of the automated stuff that we'll get to later in the presentation, but to make that happen, and you obviously can do it manually as well. But yeah, develop that personal connection out of the gate. Let them know that you're reaching out because you find their content interesting.
Yeah, people love it when you. First off, it has the benefit of being true, right? There's a reason why you're reaching out to them. And people like positive reinforcement. And they also, if it's not all transactional, that's a good thing too, right? Setting up these scenarios where everybody wins from a collaboration is really a key piece. And we're going to go over some neat shortcuts that you can take to get to that point a little bit as we continue here. Now, in terms of the different types of partnership, we sort of have talked about this a little bit, but Adam, as we talk to different clients, we see that different people use different types of compensation methods. sort of depending on how excited the influencers are with working with the brand and things like that. And do you have any thoughts on some of the different ways that we believe in compensating influencers?
Yeah, so I'll say, to echo what we've been kind of discussing, the better that you can get a sense of the alignment between your product or service, the audience, and the influencer, what they're interested in posting about, what their audience engages with them about, the more you can determine what's going to be the best opportunity for the relationship. Now, in some cases, again, if you find that alignment, maybe your product or service is something that the influencer is super excited about, and would be willing to just simply do it in exchange for product. Or if they want to do a hybrid component where there's a financial piece, you can secure some of those discounts off of their, FU price, as Josh called it, which does exist for every influencer, right? It's the like, stop wasting my time, because you don't have that alignment. And so it really depends on the campaign and what you're looking to do. There are other ways that you can build a partnership with this influencer, instead of just a one-time, okay, I'm going to give you $500, you do a video, and like, all right, I'll see you later. If you can also entice them with future campaigns, or potentially inviting them into a VIP program for your top creators and top performing influencers. Maybe there's like an event or a meetup that you host for them at some point every year, when meeting people in person is a thing we all do again in business. There are a lot of different ways that you can differentiate your offering, because again, they are getting a lot of offers, and if you can let them know what's on the table for future collaborations and future incentives, and that you're looking to build a real relationship with them, a lot of times they appreciate that, and that'll reflect in their negotiations with you.
Yeah, I do think events are going to come back soon, but I don't know when. But I do think events are really fun there. Okay, so as we go through this, right, we want to give a little sense of a timeline for those of you. Now, for some of you have big Q4 goals, right, based around the holidays. I was talking with Josh about this yesterday. I was like, yeah, is Christmas big for you? He was like, no. If you give someone skincare for Christmas, it's kind of a backhanded compliment. So, but for those of you who are looking for your holiday influencer marketing, now is about the right time to be starting. So, we talked about how you can go about defining your goals, doing your selection, negotiation, creating that content, and launching that campaign. 4 to 6 weeks is about the time frame that we tend to recommend for that. Obviously, you can push it faster, but then you have to be really on it. Now, how do you go about finding the right people, right? So we talked about alignment. Everyone's talking about alignment. You want the influencers to love the brand. That's the goal. So first thing we got to ask is, what platforms are you going to use? So, Josh, I know Tiege Hanley obviously comes out of YouTube originally, and you're big believers in YouTube. Is that correct?
Yeah. Skincare is a very visual product that needs to be explained, and so YouTube videos tend to work better for us. But if you're a fashion brand, Instagram is probably going to be your go-to. That's a very fashion can be conveyed very effectively in a still image, and so if you're a product that needs explanation, you're going to need more than a picture and a caption to explain it, or a 15-second story with a swipe up. And so YouTube is great for brands that need an explanation. I always say another great one for YouTube is VPN services, ExpressVPN, NordVPN, Surfshark. Right. I mean, you name them, they're all on YouTube. They're all over the place on YouTube. They're also in podcasts a lot as well. And so it's because a lot of people don't know what a VPN is and why they need it. And it's a great place to start, is just starting with a 60 to 90 second ad in a YouTube video. So,
yeah, and this actually gets to a concept that we talked with our clients an awful lot about, which is information density. Like, how much does someone need to understand before they're ready to say, yeah, I want that? And, fashion is the perfect example. On an Instagram page, you see a shirt and it looks good. You're like, I want that shirt. You can click buy now and get the shirt, right? A VPN does not work that way. A skincare regimen does not work that way. There are lots of other things. And, I feel like I'm contractually obligated at this point to bring up the fact that in the future and soon, especially when men of Gen Z start aging into wrinklehood, I would imagine some of that is also going to go onto TikTok as well. But I know TikTok is a whole different beast, and I just, as I've mentioned, I spend way too much time on TikTok. So you want to find the right platform. You need to leverage your insights, right? So this is where we're talking about data and experiment. Because if you have the information that you need, you're going to know, okay, I put some money toward YouTube. I put some influencers toward Instagram. I put some influencers toward TikTok. If you set it all up correctly with the right CMS integrations, with the right discount codes, you're going to start to learn, and you might get surprised, right? Different brands have come to us and said, you know what? I was shocked. I thought I was going to be all Instagram. Turned out I was getting a lot of my sales from YouTube or from some people on TikTok or something like that. So put it out there, iterate, try to learn, A/B test, put as much information in front of your decision-making process as you can. Okay, so now, we talked about different types of compensation, of course, sampling, performance-based or commissions, one-off fees, and revenue sharing. But you need to get this right. You need to get your compensation right so that you get the right influencers and you get them to act in the way that you want them to act and put the content out that you're looking for them to put out. So please make sure that you get the compensation piece right. It's huge. I'm going to skip past this one because I want to get to content because I really do think I want Josh's thoughts on this. So a lot of times the content is king. So Josh, how do you go about empowering the people that work with Tiege Hanley to really put their content forward?
Yeah, so it's all about understanding what they're already doing. And so that's the reason you're reaching out. Trying to fit, you don't want to be caught fitting a square peg in a circle hole. And so if you're reaching out to someone who creates lifestyle content like Alex Costa and Alpha M here on this page, let them create lifestyle content. Like, let them create men's advice content because that's what they do. If you're reaching out, if you're working with Kevin O'Leary, also on this page, which we do, and if he goes out and creates a fashion video, that'd be really out of left field. He creates financial advice content. Find a way to connect your product to financial advice content. And so, at the end of the day, you have to let creators create. They are creators. They do this because they find it fulfilling. They do this because they're good at it. And that's how they built an audience. You can help guide them through the process, but you can't force it. And so you have to feel out. Every influencer is different. If they are very open to your ideas and working together in a more collaborative way, then you can have that collaborative relationship with them. But if they express that their content is sacred to them, don't be caught making suggestions because it will turn them off, and they might be a great influencer, and you might have just turned off that influencer.
Yeah, and Adam, we're talking about authenticity, right? So this goes right into that conversation. Like, how do you let the people talk to their audience the way that their audience is used to, and how do you make that happen with the brand as well?
Yeah, I think that the best way to do that, and again, it goes back to understanding yourself and your product. You need to understand what are making your customers come through the door, what's setting you apart, how are you winning business compared to your competitors, like what are your main value propositions, right? You can send those to influencers as part of the campaign brief and say, here's what works for us, here's how we describe our product in a way that we know leads to conversions. Take this high level, do with it what you will, and create content that your audience is going to engage with. And when you find that hybrid and you give them that autonomy, they're going to be excited to work with you. They're going to hit those high level points that you've mentioned, and they're going to do it in a way that is typically as highly effective as it's going to be for their audience, because they know best what their followers like. So the more that you can just kind of give them these high level tips to help make them successful, but then give them the creative authority to do it, the better it can be. That being said, you should also build in potentially a system to review that content and protect your own brand safety by just having kind of an approval process as well, just to make sure that everything is in fact copacetic and aligns with what you want to be projecting with your brand.
Yeah, no, approvals are always interesting. There is that moment where you're like, okay, wait, does this actually fit what I'm trying to do? But the best brands always manage to walk that line in a smart way and give the creators the space and not have it blow up in their face, which I think is good. Okay, so we have, and here we go. We were talking about the brand safety right here. So in terms of the brand safety, one of the big things here is selecting the right people, right? So the way that Josh is able to say "F you," maybe you don't want the people who can't do that on their own page, right? You want people who are speaking the same language that you want to speak, putting up content, not on the wrong side of very hot button issues that you don't want to touch as a brand or anything like that. And you want to find those right people, and you want to get in the position where you can utilize their content to the best of your capability. We spoke a little bit earlier today about the value of whitelisting some influencers, amplifying some content, things of that nature. So absolutely look into the brand safety piece. Okay, so now let's talk about how we actually should do outreach and what our best practices here are. So one of the things that is sort of interesting is influencers don't hide. Josh, I think you could agree with that. Like
some do though.
Brand, some do. That's true. And if they are, then it's like knock 3 times, turn around, put a letter in the mailbox, and wait for an owl to come back.
But I've considered shipping product to someone that just had an address available and that didn't have an email, wasn't responding to their email. I've considered shipping a box, just putting product in their hand with a.
Was this influencer Bill Murray?
It was not Bill Murray.
Yeah, Bill Murray is known for like having a phone somewhere that he doesn't check, and that's the only way that you can get in touch with him. So
yeah.
But most of the time, influencers who are open to collaboration do make it somewhat okay to find them. Now, we have the tools at Upfluence to contact them at scale, depending on how many different relationships you're looking to create. I know, Josh, from time to time, you're doing a much more targeted outreach. They can both work. It really just depends on what your goals are in terms of what makes the most sense. So that's how you can contact. And then there's, we think that depending on how many influencers you're looking to work with, manual can be very time consuming and resource heavy. I think, Josh, for what Tiege Hanley is doing, you're looking for really high quality video content from a few people at a time. It's not like you're looking for 10,000 videos all at the same time. So that's why you can be a little more picky about how you speak. But we at Upfluence, we can allow you to contact hundreds of people pretty quickly who all could work for you. So you have to decide what makes the most sense for you and your brand. So can you tell us a little bit about, how you go about onboarding?
Yeah. So, we do use a manual approach for quite a few of our reach outs. And so we just find, especially for people that can be very high value to the brand and potentially be our largest, influencers that we work with and have the longest lasting relationships, it's worth that manual outreach, because my goal isn't to reach out to 10,000 people at a time. At times, it's just to get one person that I can then hopefully be paying, to sponsor videos for the next few years, hopefully, if it works out. And so we know that those relationships are worth the manual outreach at times, but we have done, scaled outreach as well. And so in our outreach, we instantly try to communicate what our goals are. We're trying to build trust. You have to establish your brand. And so if you're experienced in influencer marketing, it's pretty easy to do that, because you can reference people that you're sponsoring already, and you can reference how much content you've sponsored and that you feel that they would be a great fit for your program. But if you're new to this, it would be just communicating what you're doing as a company, what you're doing differently, and what your goals are as a company, and making sure that the influencer understands that in that first reach out. And so, and I guess the last 2 points here are super important. There are plenty of efficiency. There are so many influencers out there, and there are ones that you should be willing to change up your strategy, make accommodations for, and really go the extra mile for. But most of them aren't that. And so if it doesn't sound like it's going to work, if communication is difficult, if you guys are having disagreements on a lot of things pertaining to the campaign, they're just one of many fish in the sea. And so you should look at it that way, because otherwise you're going to end up in a contract, in a deal that isn't going to be advantageous for your brand. And it's just going to be a humongous suck of resources. It's going to take so much of your time, and you're not going to get that benefit. And then knowing how to spot red flags, that's one of them. Red flag is knowing when someone's going to be easy or hard to work with. And so another red flag, obviously, is spotting fake followers. And do they break your brand's, you like any sort of guidelines you have for the brand? You can see that in their content before you even reach out to them. If they're bridging topics that you don't want them to bridge, it sounds like you shouldn't partner with them for any sponsored content. And so, because it's really hard to go to them and be like, I love your content, but you can't talk about X, Y, and Z, and like 70% of their channels X, Y, and Z. And so just make sure that you're aligned with them before, going to that next step and doing a deal.
Okay. And then, when we talk about this from the Upfluence perspective, it's very similar. This is more on the scaled outreach. We recommend reaching out to 10 times. It's basically the same, plenty of fish in the sea. Reach out to 10 people for every one that you want to find. Do your research. Know their red flags, know what their content looks like, all of that, and be very clear on what your expectations are. One other thing that we wanted to go over here is contracts. So with smaller influencers, sometimes you can get away without a contract, but I'm going to say the industry as a whole is moving towards more and more contracts for influencers. And there's some really good reasons to have contracts in place. Number one, expectations, making sure that the expectations are clear in writing and signed off on by both parties. Payment terms. You don't want to have influencers coming to you and being like, hey, I'm supposed to be paid the second this is done. That's not the way the industry works. You're going to want to be able to cancel. Hopefully you don't get involved in bad contracts, but you want to have the capacity to cancel. And you want to make sure that people know that they're in a safe space, so that the communication that you're going to have is confidential. It's going to be exclusive between the two of you. If you want to have exclusivity with your industry, that's really important to put into a contract. We all remember what happened when the Verizon guy just moved to T-Mobile because his contract expired, right?
It was Sprint.
Was it Sprint? Okay.
Yeah.
The Verizon guy just moved. I don't remember where he moved to. That's how much of an impact I guess it made on my buying choices. But also like laying out that the compliance is key, right? When we're working with influencers, we want to make sure that they are holding themselves to the standards that we would hold ourselves to, in terms of being upfront about this is a sponsored post, all of that. Additionally, if you can include, outlines, timelines, approval cases, all of those types of things, what this is going to do is just protect you, protect the influencer. Everyone's going to be in a better position as they move forward, as they go through things. Okay. And now we're up to, executing the campaign and managing it. So we've done all of this. Once you've done the content creation here, what are the do's and don'ts? You need to make sure that you're offering that creative flexibility, and it's up to the brand to make sure that the influencer is an expert in what it is that they do, right? You can't outsource that. It's really important, right? You need to make sure that you're giving them what they need to say and do so that they feel like an expert on what they're trying to sell. Do you do that? How do you push that information to your influencers at Tiege?
Yeah, so we provide them with talking points that are meant to be, they're very flexible. So if someone does want to read word for word, that there's an option for that. But if they are a person that likes to build their own ad reads, then we give them talking points that are just guide them through that process. And so we also, in that same document, share do's and don'ts. Mainly the do's are the talking points. The don'ts are the things that I don't want mentioned. So if you have a certain value proposition to your brand and someone shares the wrong word that completely nullifies that brand proposition, your value proposition, that should be in your talking points. That should be a line that you won't cross. For me, it's, Tiege Hanley, it provides affordable skincare products. We don't like the word cheap associated with their products because they aren't cheap. That you can go to the drugstore and find cheap products. That's just not Tiege Hanley. And so, but we are affordable compared to other luxury skincare brands. And so that is in my talking points. That is you cannot say the word cheap. If you say the word cheap, I'm probably going to tell you to edit it out. And so, and you have to know what lines you can and can't cross with people too. Understand the influencer's process. If they're editing their own videos, understand the basics around how to edit a video, because you can make better suggestions for how they can make the content compliant. And so being able to get on the same playing field as the influencer in the content creation process can really help you create that relationship and guide these deals through fruition.
Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. All right. So we've created the sort of do's and don'ts. I think influencer briefs are really important. Giving influencers a good sense of what needs to happen as we go. We talk a lot about influencer briefs, but giving some content, giving some context, giving payment terms, content guidelines, all of that kind of stuff is extremely important. And then what I want to really talk about is how do we measure that success, right? So Josh, when we talk about Tiege Hanley, you're working with people not for days, not for weeks, not for months, but really for years at a time. So how do you decide who are the people who make it to that level in terms of the success?
Sure. Yeah. This slide, the top bullet is what we use. Every link that I provide is UTM track. It has UTM parameters. We track the conversions. We track the clicks. We track, even how those customers perform for us once they are a customer. It's not just about that first purchase all the time. And so we do not use the personalized promo codes. We got rid of promo codes a while ago.
Hey, listen, some people have everyday low prices. Some people need sales. It's a big world out there, right?
Yeah. The one big issue with promo codes that I suggest everyone listening to this keeps in mind is that things like Honey exist. Things like, every single coupon code site exists. And so all they have to do is take that custom influencer code that's very publicly broadcasted and add it to their service. And now you've got a false flag in your system. And so it can become hard to manage when your brand gets scale. At the beginning, not a lot of risk. But once your brand gets scale, there's definitely some opportunities for you to have the wrong data. And so just make sure you keep an eye on it, essentially.
No, absolutely. We all have fun horror stories of promo codes out there. They can help quite a bit at the beginning. But yeah, if you can have a more sophisticated system with UTM links and all of that, that can be also beneficial. The key is that you have it and you can track. That's the big key.
Yeah. And keep in mind, when I say we don't use promo codes, doesn't mean we don't have an offer. So we definitely have an offer. Our current one is a free product or a free gift with your first box. We let the customer select it once they hit the landing page. And so that is our promo code. We just got rid of the actual entering of that code and we just made it manual. We made it on the site and it's an action that someone can take. So
makes perfect sense. All right. So we're going to track our sales and, we have all of these different ways to measure success. If you remember that little graph we did at the beginning, sort of from brand awareness all the way to conversions and loyalty, earned media value, that's something that really helps you measure your brand awareness, like how many people are actually seeing this, reach, impressions, things of that nature. Tracking the growth of your community can be big for some people. And looking at the various content that people have. These are ways to measure success outside of sales. The one thing that I do want to mention, I'm very boring sometimes. Sometimes I'm very silly, and I like to just measure sales. But obviously, some of these other things are good leading indicators. And as you mentioned, Josh, it does give you, there can be some times where this action that happens over here has downstream effects over there. So I'm not saying no to brand awareness, but I really do like the data points. And Adam, you've been talking about data all day. In terms of qualitative analysis of where people are coming from, how they're selling. Do you want to get into amplification? Do you want to get into longer term contracts? That's really key as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, of course, you want a system in place to be able to measure the effectiveness, however you define that you're getting from each of these influencers, right? But sometimes there are issues, even with UTMs or with just looking at other types of metrics. The influencer's post could just be the first time that someone is exposed to your brand. They may then go to your website, maybe not through the link that the influencer provides. They may then get retargeted by a paid campaign on Facebook and come in through that. So the more that you can measure and try to understand the customer's journey and relate these different buying strategies to your overall marketing uh, strategy, the better that you'll do. But yeah, I would say obviously sales is a big one that you want to look at, but other things can be very valuable too because they're helping your brand stay top of mind for these potential customers.
Okay. Go ahead, Josh. What were you going to say?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. I heard something. All right. So was it successful? Did these influencers meet the goals? Like, this is how you have to think about it in terms of building it out longer term, right? Like, if you set a bar for people and they cleared it, that's great. So what do you do next? Did they meet the goals? Do you have a strong and positive ROI, right? The reason I work with influencers is that the money goes further with influencer marketing and social commerce in general than it does with simple ads on Google or Facebook. And like we said, who are these long-term partners? Who are the people that 3 years from now are still going to be posting on your behalf? So it's almost becomes set it and forget it. You send them the same instructions. They just make new videos or new content for you. Everybody's winning. That's the goal. That's where we want to get to with actually managing these people. Okay. Now we have a little bit of time for Q&A. I do want to bring up one last bit within this, which is, as you're looking through all of this and as you're trying to find the right people, just make sure that you're really looking into all of the different integrations that we have, all the different partners that we work with. I know, Josh, you utilize one of our integrations. I'm not sure which one off the top of my head.
The Klaviyo one.
All right. So Josh uses the Klaviyo integration, and I think we talked about this. You've used the influencer match to find some people in the past, right?
Yeah. We your customers can be your best influencers, and especially if they already have an audience, being able to amplify their trust of the brand. And so, the influencer matching tool is very, very crucial, and it's something that Upfluence does provide that many others do not. And so, it's a great tool.
Yeah, we get a kick out of it. It can be super fun, and you can find people, and you're like, oh my god. That person. I think, Adam, you had a whole session earlier today about how there was that we could found amazing influencers for people that had millions of followers.
For her perfume line, we found an influencer who had over 2 million followers, who was a repeat customer that they had no idea about, who's now turned into one of their largest brand champions. Got to actually meet Dolly over video chat, which is still awesome, and has driven tens of thousands of dollars in sales for them, and at a fraction of her normal rates, because she's already just a fan of the brand and a fan of Dolly. But who's not, right?
Okay, so I know we have a few questions here. I think we had a question about. I'm trying to find it. Sorry, and we promise we'll get to all of the questions at some point on all of the different chats, but we have some questions on outreach approaches to high engaging influencers to promote new products. So this is a little complicated if it's a very new brand. So the question is, what's the best outreach approach to get, I'm assuming, influencers to want to work with your brand as you're getting started? And I'm going to start to answer this question, but then I'm going to ask Josh his thoughts. My first thought is, if you're a new brand, make sure that you're aiming for the right influencers. Our tool actually can give you a good sense of how much an influencer would tend to ask for a paid collaboration. And if you're brand new and you see, you're wanting to work with, I'm going to use the bad example, but you want to work with Kim Kardashian and you want to offer her $50, she's not going to do it. It doesn't matter how well you set up your engagement strategy. So make sure you're focusing on the influencers that are sort of where you are, that can grow with you. Never forget the power of people with smaller followings to help you get things moving. But Josh, do you have any recommendations for people as they're just getting started with new brands?
Yeah, if you can afford it, put the product in their hands. Mm-hmm. So that is one of the most compelling ways to get someone on board for what you're doing, especially if it's interesting, new, different than your competitors, is if you can afford to, send it to them. Let them know in that initial reach out that you're willing to send them product before there's even any sign of a deal. And so, because that can help create it. And that would be, for a new brand, that would be one of my go-to strategies.
Okay. And we have another question that's sort of along the same line, which is, for a startup without a large marketing budget, is influencer marketing a good investment versus just doing Facebook ads? And it really depends on the everything always depends on the product. Everything depends on how you find people and all of that. I do think one of the really strong things about what Josh is talking about in terms of sending product is there's a gap between the value of the product in the head of the influencer and the cost that you have, right? So let's say you're selling, I'm using some AirPods right now. AirPods cost $250 retail, or $225, whatever it is, but Apple does not spend that much on them. So when they send people AirPods, their cost is maybe $20 to do it. But to the influencer, it feels like they just got something worth $250. Use that same math to your benefit, right? If you have a high value product, send it to someone. They don't know that it costs you $25 to make. And I'm not trying to minimize the costs that are associated with building those products and making those products. You have real costs there. I'm not saying that, but it's a good way to make your budget go a little bit further. Yeah. And just to go one step further, we were founded at Upfluence because we figured out that it was cheaper. Our CEOs were in e-commerce. They were selling men's ties, but that doesn't really matter. Just to show you how the world was different, right? Can you imagine? But what they found out was that when they were spending money on influencer marketing, they had so much more traffic coming from that than from Facebook ads. And that is still true to this day, so long as you find the right influencers and they have the right content that aligns with your brand and all of the different things that we've been talking about.
And it's worth mentioning that if it's in your contract and, if it's repurposable, they make fantastic Facebook ads. And that can be highly converting and probably some of your top performers versus what you might be seeing with your traditional Facebook ads. So it's definitely worth testing if you can find the right influencers, and when you find the right influencers, and then make sure it's repurposable as an added bonus to continue that Facebook advertising strategy.
Okay. All right. I know we have a few more questions, and like I said, we'll get to you in the various chats. And I know we had questions on the Slack channel as well. But I want to take this opportunity to thank Josh so much, Josh, for being here today. And by the way, I do need some Tiege Hanley. I know that I'm going to not be able to find a promo code on Honey, But if you want to sign up to get some men's skincare, one of the greatest places to find affordable luxury men's skincare. Did I stay on message and on brand?
Yeah, close enough. Yeah.
Close enough. All right, good. Is to go to Tiege Hanley to find that, and really, it's phenomenal stuff. And if you're interested in learning more about what we do here at Upfluence, I think we're going to pop a link in the chat down there so that you can talk to one of our consultants here. Josh, thank you so much for being here today.
Not a problem at all. I truly do enjoy the Upfluence product. We've been using it for years here, and so I like jumping on these and helping you guys out because I actually believe in the product. And maybe I'm a product influencer for Upfluence. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think Adam, that's up to you to decide because you're the head of our strategic partnerships. But I feel like you should agree to what Josh just said.
Yeah. A multi-year contract is what I'm expecting. So,
I'll send you a detailed campaign brief and we can negotiate. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining us today at our first ever Upfluence Live Summit. And we have connected, we have collabed, and we have created as the days gone by. All of these sessions are going to be available on our various channels in the days to come. So if you missed out on any of the webinars, please check them out. And we are going to be sending out a lot of that content, and you'll be seeing it in the days to come. Thank you all so much, and have a great day.